Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples, and they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I am too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me some money?" "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." "I am too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm," he said. "I want a wife and I want children, and so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house, but you can cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time. And when it came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered. "Come and play." "I am too old and sad to play," said the boy. "I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat," said the tree. "Then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy. But not really. After a long time, the boy came back. "I am sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I am too old to climb," said the boy. "I am sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I am just an old stump. I am sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could. "Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest." And the boy did. And the tree was happy. The end. Hi, I'm Jonas Kane, owner of #Positivity, a company that spreads engagement, empowerment, and encouragement through our community, through entertainment and education. In this video, you're going to learn how to identify and utilize the common elements found in stories, so you can learn to appreciate the value that stories have to offer, and so you can learn to compose and tell your own engaging stories. Stories are truly powerful. We find them in books, movies, on television, in video games, and in our living rooms and around the campfire among family and friends. And stories aren't just for entertainment. Rather, they serve as tools to share messages and communicate valuable lessons. The exciting things that happen in stories mirror the experiences we face in our everyday lives. Perhaps they even detail true life events that have happened to you personally, helping you to better understand and process the experience. And sometimes, these stories are of events that haven't happened to you before, helping you to better prepare to face similar situations down the road, or at the very least, have greater understanding and empathy for the people you meet who have gone through those experiences. The characters we find in stories sometimes lead by example, reminding us how we too should act, while other times, those characters act selfishly and without compassion, by lying, cheating, or stealing, and then experience negative repercussions because of these poor choices. Most of all, stories help us to feel more connected with others, helping to unify rather than divide. That's why stories are truly powerful and why they're so valuable. And so, on that note, let's get started by identifying the common elements found in stories. While every story is different, there are many similarities. In this section, you'll learn about 10 key stages that are found in many stories. These stages are stability, trigger, hesitation, guidance, the quest, surprise, choice, climax, reversal, and resolution. Here's what those stages mean. The first stage is one of stability, or what's referred to as the ordinary world. This is where the characters in the story are just going about their everyday lives, business as usual. Next, we have the trigger stage, also called the call to adventure. This is when a problem disrupts the stability of everyday life to the story's characters. The next stage is one of hesitation, also known as the refusal to the call. This is when the potential hero of the story hesitates, wanting to simply keep living their life doing business as usual. In the next stage, the potential hero receives guidance in what is known as meeting the mentor. This mentor is a key character who appears at just the right time to motivate the hero to take action. This mentor may pass along key information to help them on their quest, or they may even give them valuable tools for the journey. The next stage in the story is when the main character crosses the first threshold. This is when the hero heeds the guidance of the mentor and begins the journey. After beginning the journey, the hero will encounter surprises along the way, including meeting allies or friends, along with enemies and roadblocks that test the hero's commitment to the quest. At some point in the story, the hero will reach a certain point where they will have a critical choice to make, in what's called the approach to the innermost cave. This is the moment where the hero will have one final chance to turn back or decide to continue on. After continuing on into the innermost cave, the hero faces their biggest challenge in a stage that's often called the ordeal and reward. In this stage, the hero fights for and gets what they came for. At this point, you might think the story is over, but now is perhaps when the hero is in the most danger, because now they have to retrace their steps in a stage known as the road back. They got what they came for, but now it's time to escape the cave and get back home. Enemies may still be in hot pursuit, but using their newly gained skills or knowledge, the hero safely escapes. Finally, we arrive at the resolution stage, a point in the story often called the return with the elixir. This is when the hero arrives back home with the solution they sought to bring stability back to their world. Those are the 10 basic elements that you'll find in many stories. However, some stories might gloss over some of those elements, while in other stories they might emphasize certain elements over others. And sometimes you'll find certain elements repeated several times throughout a single story. To help you better understand these elements, let's take a look at a story that uses each of these stages. The Wizard of Oz. We find stability in Dorothy Gale's ordinary world in the farm in Kansas. We encounter a trigger when a grumpy old woman wants to steal Dorothy's dog, Toto, inspiring her to run away. There's hesitation when Dorothy feels bad for how awful her aunt will feel with Dorothy gone. Dorothy meets her mentor, Glinda the Good Witch, who offers guidance for how to get back home. Dorothy begins her quest back home by following the yellow brick road. Along the way, Dorothy encounters surprises in the form of allies such as the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, and enemies like the Wicked Witch of the West and the Flying Monkeys. Dorothy and her new friends have to make a critical choice when the Wizard of Oz requests the broomstick from the Wicked Witch of the West in exchange for helping Dorothy get back home. The climax is when Dorothy finally obtains the broomstick after nearly being killed by the evil witch. The reversal is when they bring the broomstick to the wizard and encounter challenges in getting him to make good on his promise. And finally, we find the resolution when Dorothy is finally brought back home to the family farm in Kansas, where she takes what she learned from her journey to bring stability back to her ordinary world, proclaiming, "There's no place like home." Think of one of your favorite stories and see if you can identify these 10 stages. Now that we've identified the key stages in a story, now let's take a look at the characters. We've just explored the common elements or stages that we find in a good story. Now let's take a look at the characters, which include heroes, mentors, allies, villains, and tricksters. The hero is a main character in a story who tries to solve a problem. Think of your favorite myth, fairy tale, book, movie, or TV show. Can you identify the hero in the story? There are several different kinds of heroes, and some heroes may even play different heroic roles throughout a story. Here are some examples. There's the willing versus unwilling hero. The willing hero is eager to help, while an unwilling hero is less than enthusiastic about it. There's the loner versus group-oriented hero. The loner hero prefers to embark on the journey alone, while the group-oriented hero prefers to work as part of a team of allies. There's the anti-hero. The anti-hero is considered to be an outcast by society's standards and may even be a criminal. There's the tragic hero. The tragic hero is a person of virtuous character, but destined for suffering, downfall, or defeat. And lastly, there's the catalyst hero. The catalyst hero is someone who enacts great positive change for others, but who is personally unaffected by the change themselves. So that's the hero, and this character interacts with other main and supporting characters as the story unfolds. Let's take a look at these other characters. The mentor is the character in a story who offers wisdom and guidance to the hero. They may offer words of encouragement, new knowledge or understanding, or perhaps provide tools to help them along the way. Examples include the fairy godmother in Cinderella, Glinda the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz, and Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. Can you think of any other mentors? Allies are the characters in a story who team up with the hero. They may be friends of the hero and could very well be considered heroes in their own right. Examples include Hermione and Ron from Harry Potter, Kristoff from Frozen, and Commissioner Gordon and Robin from Batman. Can you think of any other allies? The villain is the character in a story who tries to stop the hero and their allies from succeeding. The villain may work on their own, but they very well likely may have their own allies working with them to try and stop the hero. Examples include the Joker from Batman, Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, and the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. Can you think of any other villains? The trickster is the character in a story who provides comic relief and may even cause a little mischief. Examples include Toto from The Wizard of Oz, Dobby from Harry Potter, and Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. Can you think of any other tricksters? Those are the basic characters that you'll find in many stories, and as the story unfolds, these characters will encounter other characters who play supporting roles as well. Now that we've had a chance to discover the elements and characters that make up a good story, let's take a moment now and listen to a story to see if you can put your new knowledge to use by identifying these elements and characters. As you listen to the story, you may want to have a piece of paper and a pen or pencil ready, so you can take some notes about the different elements or characters that you discover along the way. King Karnak was worried. He looked in the mirror one morning and saw an old man staring back at him. His hair silver, his eyes cornered with crow's feet. No doubt about it, he didn't have long for this world. He had another worry too. He and his wife had never been blessed with children. Now, sadly, the queen had died and the king had no heir. It was causing him sleepless nights. So he had a good long think and finally came up with an idea. The king sent out a proclamation. "Let anyone who wants to be king after me come to the palace and take part in a competition." A wave of excitement rippled through the land. The knights and nobles thought they were in with a chance. The competition was bound to be a tournament. They would fight each other in single combat on horseback with lances and swords. Whoever was the best fighter would be the next king. It was as simple as that. Or so they thought. So they set about sharpening their swords, polishing their armor, and doing their press-ups, practicing hard for the big day. On the day of the competition, hundreds of lords and nobles splendidly arrayed in armor and riding handsome horses gathered outside the castle. Their weapons glinted in the sun. They bustled about, jostling and talking in loud voices, each trying to look more kingly than the next. But there was one in the colorful crowd who wasn't a lord or a noble, who didn't have a horse or armor. This was Jack, a farmer's son who lived near the castle. He hadn't come to be king, but just because he loved excitement and wanted to see what would happen. Suddenly, the king's crier ordered everyone to leave their horses and weapons outside and enter the castle courtyard. A great grumbling aroused from the nobles, who felt cheated of their tournament. They traipsed into the castle, muttering and complaining to each other. Then the buglers trumpeted a fanfare and everyone fell silent. A great oak door swung open and the king stepped out. The crier shouted, "Form an orderly queue!" Orderly queue? The knights and nobles didn't form orderly queues, they pushed and shoved people around. But this was the king and they had to do what he said. So they huffed and puffed and shuffled about, forming a ragged line. Then the king pulled a pouch from his cloak and took out something small. It was a seed. "I'm going to give you each one of these," he said. "Take it away and see what you can grow. Come back in 6 months, and from what you've grown, I'll decide who will be king after me." There was a rumble of protest. "Grow a seed? Pah! That was peasants' work. These knights wanted a properly manly fight. They didn't want to grow seeds. Still, if it meant they could be the next king, they would have to do it. So one by one, they grudgingly took a seed from the king." Jack was watching this with amusement. Being a farmer's boy, he knew all about growing seeds, so he joined the line and got his very own seed. Back home, Jack found a little pot. He filled it with compost, pressed in the seed, and watered it. He knew some seeds liked the dark, so he put it in a warm cupboard. Each day he checked for a telltale little green sprout, but nothing came up. So he put it in a window ledge in the sunshine. He watched and watered it every day, but still nothing grew. Then he stopped watering for a while, but it made no difference. It needs stronger manure, Jack thought, so he scraped up some rooster poo from the chicken shed. That would do the trick. But a week later, there was no green shoot to be seen. 2 months passed, and still Jack's seed hadn't sprouted. He tried everything, even talking and singing to his little pot, but now he was desperate. So he climbed onto the roof and put the pot next to the chimney. Warm and sunny here, he thought, but still nothing grew. Finally, he took his pot to the forest, thinking the seed might like trees all around, but it made not the slightest difference. At last, after 3 months, Jack gave up. I'll never make this seed grow now. When the day for showing the plants came, Jack wasn't planning to go, but his family said he'd tried hard and that he should go just to see how it turned out. So he did, and tucked under his coat was his little pot with the seed he'd loved so much. Outside the castle, the lords were preening like peacocks, eager to show off the blooms and blossoms they'd grown from the king's seed. There were roses, poppies, and hollyhocks, dahlias, azaleas, and pansies, lilies, marigolds, foxgloves, sunflowers, and chrysanthemums. It looked and smelled like a garden center in June. When the trumpet sounded, the lords bustled into the courtyard, proudly displaying their beautiful plants. This time, they didn't have to be asked to line up. And there, skulking in the shadows, was Jack, his little pot of nothing but compost tucked under his coat. The king walked onto the podium and the crowd hushed. The first lord stepped forward and presented his wondrous flower. The king examined it briefly and said, "Yes, very good, thank you. Next!" The second lord stepped up and received the same response. "Yes, very good, thank you. Next!" And so it went on. To everyone who came up, the king said the same words. "Yes, very good, thank you. Next!" Jack was not going to go up, for he had nothing to show. But suddenly, when the line had dwindled almost to nothing, someone pushed him forward and he found himself before the king. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," Jack spluttered. "I couldn't grow that seed you gave me. I tried everything." He tried to move away from the king's strong gaze, but a royal hand clapped him on the shoulder. "What's your name, boy?" "Jack, my lord." "Jack," said the king, "you have done well." "Well, my lord," Jack said, "but I grew nothing from that seed, sire." "Jack," chuckled the king, "I don't know where those knights got their wonderful flowers from, but they weren't from the seeds I gave them. You see, I boiled those seeds for a whole hour before giving them out. Not one of them should have sprouted." Jack's head started to spin. "Jack," continued the king, "of all of these contenders, you are the only one with the courage and honesty to tell me the truth. And courage and honesty are what I'm looking for in the person who will be king after me. And so, Jack, I declare you my heir and successor." Jack was stunned. You could have knocked him down with a flower, and to tell the truth, he wasn't sure he wanted to be king. Luckily, the king lived a few more years, giving Jack time to get used to the idea and to learn some kingly art, such as how to ride a horse and speak in a loud voice. Finally, when the old king died, Jack was crowned in his place. King Jack the First, King Jack the Only. King Jack was not just brave and honest. He loved nature too. He loved seeing things grow. So soon, flowers and forests were springing up everywhere. Nature came into cities. People went out into nature. Many of the lords even hung up their swords and picked up garden forks instead. Best of all, when King Jack saw how much his people loved growing things, he set up a royal flower show, a kind of flower tournament for everyone to display what they grew. And so it has continued from that day to this. The end. Wasn't that a great story? Were you able to identify any of the characters that we talked about, or any of the 10 stages that we talked about? I took some notes, and let's see how my notes matched up with yours. Let's see, the hero was Jack. The villain was likely the knights and the nobles who tried to lie to the king about their success in growing the plants and flowers. And the king, in a way, is kind of like the trickster by boiling the seeds. The trigger is when the king realized he was growing old and didn't have anyone to take over as king. So that started the whole adventure. And Jack received guidance from his family when he didn't want to go to the palace, but they encouraged him to go anyway. He was too ashamed to show an empty pot, so they kind of acted like mentors. But also that mysterious hand that pushed Jack forward once he was at the palace also kind of acted like a guiding mentor. And of course the king helped Jack in the end learn how to be kingly. So the king also acted as a mentor in the end. The climax was when the king revealed that the seeds were boiled and could not possibly grow because he was looking for a successor who would be honest and courageous. That was a very climactic moment. And finally, the resolution was when Jack becomes the king in the end and inspires people to appreciate nature and appreciate watching things grow. So those are my notes. How did I do? Did they match up with your notes? Or did you find things that I had missed? Let me know by sending an email to me at jonas@hashtagpositivity.com. Now it's your turn. Take everything you know about storytelling and write your own engaging story. Be sure to include all the elements and characters that's needed to tell your story, but don't worry if you don't use all of them. Some stories only need certain elements to get the story told. To help you in the writing process, you can download a worksheet that has all of the story elements and characters outlined ready for you to fill in with your story details. You can download this worksheet at hashtagpositivity.com/storytelling101. You'll want to include details like who's the hero, who's the mentor, who are the allies, who's the villain, and who's the trickster. Where does the story take place? Is it a town, a forest, a room, an alien planet? Describe the ordinary world. What happens in the story? What problem needs to be solved? What trigger creates a call to adventure? What challenges do the characters face along the way, and what choices will need to be made? How does the story resolve in the end? And what moral or lesson will the reader or listener of the story gain from it? To help you get your creative juices flowing, there are a number of fun games that you can play. A simple game is where you team up with friends and you each take turns contributing one sentence to a story. By the time you've gone around several times, you have all created a story that you never would have been able to create alone. This is a great way to really spur your creativity. Another fun game is called Story Cubes. Using the Story Cubes, it's a dice playing game where each side of the cubes has different symbols and that can inspire creativity. What you do is you take turns rolling the dice, and using that symbol that pops up the top, you create a story. You can play this alone or you can play it with a group of friends. It's a lot of fun. Lastly, another fun game is called Once Upon a Time, and this is a card game where everyone gets a number of cards. They include places and things and people and characters, but everyone also gets what's called an ending card. This one is, so they changed places and everything was back to normal. What's this one? This is, the curse was lifted as had been foretold. The idea is that using the cards in the story, you each take turns using the cards, and the person to use all of their cards first and logically use their last card to tell an engaging story will win the game. You could do this with your friends, or you could use these cards again on your own just to get your creative juices flowing. These suggestions are just to get you started. Can you think of any other games that you can play to really get your creative juices flowing to help you write your story? I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed learning about storytelling in this video. If you have any questions, you can email me personally at jonas@hashtagpositivity.com. I also encourage you to check out our website, hashtagpositivity.com, to learn about our online courses, our professional development trainings, our leadership workshops, and of course, our entertainment programs as well. All of our programs are created to help you foster a positive mindset, gain clarity of purpose, and develop high-value relationships so you can experience and share positivity with the people in your community. Until next time, my name is Jonas Kane. Stay positive.